Hello Epic 7 newbies. This is Suspect Amy, and I'm here to do a quick video to help new players dive into Nightmare Labyrinth. As you know, I have a waifu-only account here, so I've been asked by a few viewers what teams I use to clear raid bosses every month. Waifu-only teams rarely hold me back in Epic 7, but Nightmare Raid has a pretty ridiculous range. On some bosses, I can just sleepwalk through using scuff gear, but on other bosses, like Executioner Karkanis, I need to be extra careful. I want to give full credit to Tristen Wulf's guide from a year ago. Even though some heroes have changed, many of the strategies are similar, so if you still have trouble with a boss, or want some husbando options, I'll link his detailed guide in the description. I know what you're thinking, why should you do Nightmare Raid? Normal Raid also gives out level 88 gear along with the same currency for the Labyrinth shops. You bring up a good point. The two main reasons I do Nightmare Raid is because the gear you get is so much better. The substats are aligned pretty well with the set, and there's zero flat stats to worry about. With normal Raid, the subs are all random, which results in quite a few unusable pieces. The second reason is because Nightmare Raid isn't really that much harder than normal Raid. When I first tried Nightmare Raid, I slowly fought my way to the Queen, and she killed my whole team in 2 shots instantly. But once you figure out the mechanics, everything changes and these bosses become a breeze. If you experience the same thing I did, don't be afraid to try again and get this nailed down. Once you unlock the teleports, each boss fight is around 7 to 10 minutes. I can wreck all 5 bosses in less than an hour, but I usually try to do 1 or 2 per week, so I can clear the weekly reputation and guild missions. The other benefit I mentioned is the Labyrinth shops. These are amazing. Clearing a few bosses will give you a ton of currency for accessory charms. The shop inside the raid itself has the best speed weapon in the game. I know you can buy this weapon in normal raid, but I feel like I get more of this currency in Nightmare. I can usually pick up 1 or 2 of these every month, to emphasize how ridiculous this squiggly sword is. If I sort all of my speed swords by gear score, you can see that around half of my high-end weapons are this raid sword. The fastest sword I own is one of these, so don't sleep on Labyrinth, folks. Before I jump into walkthroughs, let me quickly clear up why I'm covering all bosses in a single video. Is it because I love super long videos? No, I hate them. This is because Hell Raid will block you from using the same hero more than once. This will reset every month, but it explains why, for example, I'm using Hazel on a particular boss instead of Tamarine. Is it possible Tamarine is actually way better for this boss? Absolutely. But if I'm using Tamarine on another boss, that means she can't be used here. Think of Nightmare Labyrinth like a war, and you have a platoon of 5 separate squads, all fighting on different battles. Your army needs to work together to win the war every month. Now that that's out of the way, let's dive in. I'll start with the easiest bosses first and save the harder ones for the end. The first one is Devourer Arahakan. Akades is my healer. Just give her high ER and make her relatively speedy. Her artifact doesn't matter, I use Guardian for more ER. Also, the EE I use is the one that gives her even more ER on her S3. Carrot is one of my debuffers, so she needs some effectiveness. You want her in the front position because she also applies burn when she's attacked. I use Etika's Scepter to cycle her skills a bit quicker, but you can use any artifact on her. SSB is my other debuffer and she's my defense breaker. She is awesome on this boss because the minions use a lot of AoE attacks, triggering her like crazy. This is the exact SSB I use in Wyvern. I make 0 changes to her. EE and artifact don't really matter, just use her how you have her. LQC is my damage dealer. Because Devourer is Dark Element, she has bonus penetration, sometimes cutting 30% HP from the boss in a single shot. I just have her on scuff gear. See, I'm even too lazy to bring my destruction gear from storage to give her more crit chance. I recommend throwing the DDJ artifact on her to make the fight go quicker. The Guardian I bring with this team is Xeon. This is because he has a guaranteed defense break, but honestly, I rarely need to use him. SSB is usually enough, so Xeon is just here as insurance. The boss has all of these buffs up and it's impossible to do decent damage on him until these go away. To remove the buffs, we just need to kill these 2 minions. The minions take more damage if they have several debuffs on them, so just use Carrot's S3 to start the debuffing. Same with SSB, let's get more debuffs going. With LQC, You want to save her S3 for the boss, so just use her S1 to chip away at the minions. This is important. With Carrot, you actually don't want to S1 the minions because it will detonate her burns and remove them. So just S1 the boss. This is a good time to start the AKT's cycle. If you don't know what the AKT's cycle is, it's where she can S3 every second turn by casting S2 on herself. So this entire battle, she should just S3, S2 herself, S3, S2 herself. You get the point. Okay, minions are dead. Let's just S1 the boss until he drops his buffs. Buffs are down. I have LQC, but I don't want to S3 until the boss's defense broken. My Guardian isn't ready yet, so I'm hoping SSB can land hers next turn, so I'll S1 for now. While Devourer's buffs are down, I completely ignore the minions and just focus on the boss. Perfect, SSB landed her defense break, so now LQC can S3 the boss. You can see she does some pretty big damage here. The boss will reapply his buffs when he's half health, so I'll just save SSB's S3 to debuff the minions later. He will cleanse his minions when he rebuffs, so no sense debuffing them now. Now just do the exact same thing again, debuffing and killing minions, and then have LQC unload on the boss when he's defense broken. Easy peasy. Here's an example of the reward gear you get from Devourer Arahakan. Next up is Juleeve Council. In the front row you want Destina. This is the exact same Destina I use for Rift. She uses the Eternus artifact to push when debuffs are applied. Does she need high ER for the council fight? Not really. She just has this for Rift, but since I have 2 cleansers on my team, her ER can probably be lower and she'll do just fine. The EE I use is the one that potentially resets the cooldown of her S2. Her S1 EE is probably better, but I don't think it matters much. Your other cleanser is Laya. This is the exact same Laya I use in PvP, no changes. You'll see a pattern here, other than some minor artifact switching. I really hate re-gearing heroes for a boss once a month. If I can't use a hero geared the same way I use them in other content, then I won't use that hero. This is the same Gala I use for PvP. The only difference is I put DDJ on her to make the fight go a bit faster. This is the same Bologna I use for Rift. Since most of my DDJs are used up, I use Strawberry Cake, or Beautiful Season on her. Since both Laya and Destina are impacted by injury, it's important to cleanse debuffs off as soon as you can before it spreads around. You want to save Gallus S3 for the split phase of the fight, so just S1 for now. If you debuff Council, they actually convert it into a buff, so it's important to only S1 with Bologna here. Laya, there's nothing to cleanse, so save her S2. If her S3 is ever available, just use it freely. No need to save it for any phase. At 70% health, Council will enter the split phase. This phase is the most dangerous phase because every turn you lose health. So ending this phase as fast as possible is your top priority. You only need to kill the batch with the target in order to end this phase. These bugs can be debuffed, so you want to use Bologna's S3 to defense break. Then you want to use Gala's S3 for massive damage. Same deal. Keep everyone cleansed. Don't debuff the boss. Save Gala's S3 for the next split phase, which happens when the boss is at 40% health. Okay, the last split phase is done. Now you just need to finish off the boss. Since there's no more split phases, you don't need to save Gala's S3 anymore. Just let her rip. The only note on this last part is this smiley face buff the boss has. This makes the boss hit harder, and it keeps stacking every time the boss takes a turn. You can easily remove this buff by soul burning any skill. And there we go. Council is down. Here's a look at the type of rewards I got from this boss. Secretary Vera is another easy fight. Vera is a very AoE heavy fight, so I have 2 fire AoE damage dealers, and Tenebria is one of them. She's awesome because she can also defense break on her S3. I don't use her much outside of raid, so I just have her on scuff gear and I'm using the Keystone artifact on her. I'm sure there are better ones, but this is a pretty easy fight, so no need to sweat it too much. Her EE doesn't matter much. Just note that DDJ doesn't work on Secretary Vera. My other fire AoE damage dealer is Mercedes. Again, just a scuff gear build, most of these pieces aren't even reforged. I do think Magic with Friends works well on her here, because it triggers quite often in this fight to help clear minions. Lilius is important in the final stage of this battle, which I'll explain later. But again, scuff gear, her exclusive equipment doesn't really matter. Look, I have a completely unleveled artifact on her, Crown of Glory. I'm just starting to realize how neglected my Vera team is. And your queen bee is Hazel. Just make sure her ER is high so she doesn't get stunned. If you run her on Candlestick like I do, she'll easily keep everyone cleansed and buffed. For Guardians, Xeon should be your go-to. There's a phase where defense break is so important, so having this guy as a backup to Tenebria will go a long way. Okay, this is definitely my least cared for team. Hazel should probably be in front so she takes the most hits and can proc Candlestick more often. Also, the speed tuning here is off. Hazel should go first, so she can attack buff everyone before they start their turns. Oh well, this is an easy win anyways. Just note these as adjustments you can make to your team. You need to make sure you never single attack Vera while her minions are up, so AoE is your best friend during this stage. If you only have a single attack available to you, use it on a minion. Minions are down, now we're free to single attack the boss, and that's exactly what I do. This single attack phase doesn't last long, so I try my best to save my AoEs for when the minions are back. Remember, these minions heal the boss, so the faster we can clear them, the better. The only AoE I usually do on the single target phase is just Mercedes S3 to get attack buff on everyone. Okay, at 50% health, Vera will cocoon. This is where you really need defense break. You need to drop the cocoon's HP as low as possible before it does its ultimate skill. The higher health it has, the more damage your team will take. My Guardian isn't ready to defense break yet, so I need to wait a few more turns. All damage should be focused on the cocoon. Maybe I can get a defense break from Tenebria, let's see. Beautiful. Let me try for another defense break. His S3 is almost ready. Okay, easy peasy, I didn't even need to use Xeon. This final phase is straightforward. You can AoE or single attack Vera, and it's no big deal. You might be noticing that we're doing very little damage against Vera here. The key to this last part is that dual attacks will stack a weakness effect on Vera. So whenever you have Lilius available, you want her using her S1 so she can bring in dual attacks. After some stacks have built up, you'll notice your heroes are hitting way harder. Bring in Xeon to defense break where necessary. Here's an example of the rewards you receive from Vera. Against Queen Azumashik, the good old faithful duo of Tamarine and Assyria are your best bet. Tamarine has to have high ER or else your run will fail pretty quickly. I don't think her artifact matters that much. I built her slower so that Assyria can go first, but I gave her Tome so that she still cycles pretty fast. You should have some effectiveness on her because she can strip the boss in a pinch when she's in idle mode. For Assyria, just make sure she's faster than Tamarine and has pretty good effectiveness. She's not really here for damage, just resetting Tamarine, then stripping and defense breaking the boss. You can see mine has pretty scuffy gear and just some unleveled artifact I have laying around. I'm sure you guys can do better. AOL is important on Queen because you need the ability to strip the boss without hitting her, and AOL's S3 is perfect for this. I just use the same AOL that I use in PvP, 0 changes. My damage dealer is Guider Aether. I know, this is a waifu account and technically Aether is a boy, but come on, is he really? Look at him. I think he gets a pass. The good thing is, he hits hard, he helps heal and buff, and he can strip the boss when needed. I use the POS artifact on him because the Queen is immune to DDJ. At the start, the most important thing is do not hit the Queen until Assyria has reset Tamarine. Since AOL is first on my team and Tama is not reset, I'm just going to S1 a minion, even though they're invincible. Assyria is up next, we'll reset Tamarine, and now that she's ready to rock, we can finally hit the Queen. This sets up the stage. You'll see all of your heroes can't move in the turn order unless they're pushed. This is exactly why we reset Tama. She goes into idle mode, then uses her S3 to push her team to remove this debuff. The next thing on the to-do list is to strip the Queen. If you don't, then she passes these buffs to her minions and continues to get stronger and stronger. We'll see if Tama's S1 will strip here. Nice. I try my best to save AOL's S3 for when Queen has buffs again. Other than that, keep trying to defense break with Iseria and nuke with Aether until the boss is almost at the 50% health point. I'm not having any luck with Iseria defense breaks here. Use Iseria's S2 to reset Tama when possible. If she's already reset, just use it to get Aether's nukes back. Come on, defense break. Ugh. This is going slow, so I'll Tama S3 again here. Be careful when you choose to use Tama's idle form. If the boss is under 50% health, you don't want to hit the boss at all, and Tama's idle S1 is an AoE attack. Be sure you're not changing to idle form if the boss is close to 50% health. Right now, the Queen is nowhere near that mark, so it's okay to use idle. I'm saving Aether's nukes until defense break is up. Hopefully, I get lucky here. You can do it, Iseria. Defense break. Finally. The Queen is close enough to 50% now, so we'll switch to hitting the two front minions. They have kind of an Aureus effect, where they share any damage they take with the boss. Remember, do not hit the boss or use AoE attacks while you're working on these minions, so it's important that you don't use Tama's S3. Luckily, Aether can help heal with his S2 to make up for Tama being sidelined like this. Because we can't hit the Queen, we have to hope that AOL can strip those buffs with her S3. Keep stripping the boss with AOL and focusing on her minions. When the minions are gone, hit the Queen to start the next phase. By then, she'll only have a quarter of her health left. The Queen will do the same thing she did at the beginning, disabling everyone's CR until Tama can push them. Tamarine does her thing, then focus on stripping and damaging the boss again. These remaining minions don't have the Aureus effect, so I would just ignore them. Be sure to reset Tamarine one last time because when the Queen is at 1 health, she'll consume her minions and do another big AoE with a bunch of poison. Use Tama's S3 to bring everyone back in line. Just focus on stripping the Queen's buffs for now, because she can't be killed until the smiley face buff goes away. Wait her out through one rotation, and finish her off when her invincibility drops. Here's a look at the kind of rewards the Queen will hand out. Executioner Karkanis. This is the hardest boss from a waifu-only perspective. Husbandos like Brieg and Ran are far and away the best in slot against this boss, and this fight is much harder without them. This is the one boss that I need to make sure my artifacts align on, and I even had to re-gear a bit to make my team bulkier. Momo is a staple on this team because she's an amazing cleanser, and this fight has a lot of debuffs. Make sure she has high ER and some bulk because you want her in the front row. You also want to give her Stella Harpa so she can cleanse when she's attacked. Your second support is Rose. She's here to provide attack buff and some secondary cleansing. Give her the Ancient Dragon artifact so she can lower everyone's cooldowns. Edda is here to strip the boss and pull him out of stealth with her AoE attacks. She can also stun minions to prevent them from shielding the boss and debuffing. Edda is also your only defense breaker. Because these are her main goals, I would prioritize effectiveness and bulk over damage stats. She's super squishy, so I even equip her with Victorious Flag to help her survive. Shu is our DPS. This is a pretty standard Shu build. Any of her EEs work well with this boss, so the choice is yours, but make sure she has the Daydream Joker artifact. If you speed tune a bit, you can actually start the match, where Rose gives everyone attack buff, Ida defense breaks with her S1, and then Shu gets a solid S2 in there. This will cut a quick 15% off the boss's health right away, but you can see that my defense break didn't land, so that didn't work out for me. The main thing here is, do not attack the boss if you have a debuff on the hero. The boss will counter and wreck everyone. If your hero is debuffed, either cleanse or attack a minion. Momo's sole job is to cleanse off debuffs. Rose should just be pushing with attack buff whenever she can and saving her S2 to help cleanse. Edda can use her S3 whenever it's available and she doesn't have a debuff. This will stun the minions, which helps a ton in this battle. She should save her S2 for stripping the boss and pulling them out of stealth. Edda's defense break is only 1 turn, so it's hard to line this up for Shu sometimes. With Shu, you want to just S1 and S2 the boss whenever she's not debuffed and save your S3 for pulling the boss out of stealth. Shu's main DPS is going to come in the form of soul burns. There's going to eventually be a point where the boss is defense broken and Shu potentially has an attack buff. When this scenario presents itself, soul burn Shu for extra turns and hit the boss as many times as you can. Hopefully she can proc her extra attack on most of them. Here's where Ida is perfect for stripping the boss, especially when the boss has both stealth and shield. At 30% health, Karkanis goes crazy and starts doing this double attack where he defense breaks, then goes in with a big AoE. This will instantly kill any squishy. You'll see this happen with Ida, but luckily she had skill nullifier, and without her artifact, she probably would have died. Karkanis has his S3 up, so he's going to do that double attack again. I will soul burn Momo's S3 to give everyone immunity and full health so that they're ready. The boss already has their S3 up again, and because of injury, it's likely someone will die here. I probably should have used Shu's S3 here to get the anti-crit buff up. Let me try to stun the minions. Momo does some minor healing. Rose has shield available. I'll use it on Momo because it seems she's most likely to die in the next attack. I got super lucky he didn't attack Ida. I don't think we can take much more, so I'm going to soul burn to try and finish off the boss. I need to strip off this shield. These debuffs and this shield are so annoying. Finally. And that was the hardest boss in Hellraid. Here's an example of the rewards. Anyways, I'll go ahead and wrap up this video here. Make sure you guys get into Labyrinth every month if you haven't already. It will help your account in a big way. That's all I have today. Thanks for watching my video. Bye everyone.